Pressure's on.
Hey everybody, Dante here from Oppuous. Thank you so much for your time and joining us for another exciting installment of Dante's Information Download. As always, Oppuous is a company that is a technology advisory company. Our solutions and things that we provide to the market, consultation is always complimentary, and we are dedicated to bringing you the newest and latest and greatest for all the things that you need to do to scale your business. It might look familiar to some of you guys if you are followers of the Amazon Prime show, The Blocks. It's a reality TV show about entrepreneurship. You've seen me there. Disrupt Magazine, several podcasts, as well as other news articles and periodicals as well. We are dedicated to growing entrepreneurship and sustainable ways to grow so. Check out our website, oppuous.io, oppuous.io, to find some more information about our company. And make sure after viewing this, check the comments of the video in the description. You'll find a link that you can get Devs.Ai for free. All right, so they have three different tiers. Andrew will go into that in detail of what the tiers look like and all that stuff. And when you get the free trial, definitely check it out. Upgrade at any point. It helps us grow. It helps us sustain what we need to do in the market for what we bring to vision. So I'm going to hand it over to Andrew here shortly, but I definitely do want to do a high level, right? AI, been around for a while now. More and more exciting developments as things are happening over and over and over again in the industry. And I really found that Devs was kind of as close to the silver bullet as you can get, right? There's OpenAI, AI, there's Gemini, there's Anthropic, Grok, DeepSeek, etc. This solution actually brings all those tools together, right? If you were looking at buying each one of those tools, you'd be looking at paying easily $230 a month, whereas Devs.AI can be free, it can be $15, it can be $30, right? So at the most, you're paying effectively 10% to get access to all those tools, and it allows you to customize your experience, right? Maybe you find ChatGPT, OpenAI is better at receiving certain information, but you like the way that Gemini presents it better in different instances. With this tool, you're able to mix and match each one of those tools to create your specific outcome that you're looking to do, whether you're marketing, sales, finance, whatever. There's different bots that you can build, and you can even develop with the platform, right? You can even build your own softwares and applications. So, like I said, there isn't a silver bullet, but if I was to put my money on anything that was the closest to that, it would be Devs AI, point blank, period, right? Also, we'll kind of detail some of the security protocols that are in place there, which is huge for large organizations and small organizations. You don't want your data leaked. You don't want proprietary information out there. So there's some really good safeguards that are built into the platform itself to enable you as administrators to do so. Super easy to work with. They do have professional services if you have some really custom things that you want to build out with it as well. Um, and I think that's a really good overview to kind of kick into it and hand it over to Andrew here. He is a solutions engineer from AppDirect, one of my very favorite business partners in this space. It allows us to become the biggest technology advisor that we can be, while still maintaining our lean financial position and all of that stuff in the marketplace. So I'll hand it over to Andrew. We'll kick off a couple of things and then really just detail and go back and forth on what this tool can do for you.
Cool. No, I appreciate it, Dante. Yeah, we're here to talk about Devs.ai. Now, Devs.ai is a platform that was built in the under the with the understanding that user adoption rate for AI usage in organizations has exponentially blown up. To the point where about 75% of all employees are starting to use AI in some capacity for their job, whether it be helping them write an email to building workflow automations, right? It could be any number of things. I'm gonna start sharing my screen here. Hopefully that's okay.
Yep.
Uh, and I'm not a big guy on slides, but there are a couple very useful ones I do think that we should touch on before diving into the meat and potatoes of it. So like I mentioned, 75% of employees are already using free AI tools. What's happening now is we're seeing in the industry something called shadow AI. And IT staff is no longer able to control what information is being loaded into those free models that you had mentioned. So what we did here at AppDirect is we built a platform that said, all right, let's take advantage of all of the different large language models, but let's secure them instead of marrying yourself to just one model for the entire org. Your IT staff may like Claude, right? Versus your marketing team prefers ChatGPT, and your sales team might be in Gemini, right? So instead of diversifying and trying to buy a license for each one and then shuffling them around as different individuals come and go, um, give access to all of them and let the employee pick their flavor and then be able to come to the table with a lot of different options while still having control and visibility into what information is being provided to those agents or bots. By the way, I'm going to use agent and bot synonymously, so just bear in mind if I interchange them, it means the same. um, so going back to this, when you talk about fraction of the price, I'm just going to jump right into it, right? This is a very key slide because if you were to sign up for the enterprise agreement for OpenAI, it's $60 a month per license, right? And that is the only model that will not train off of your data for subsequent large language models that come after it. Each one of these is pretty spot on as far as what it would cost you in order to utilize DeepSeek and Meta being both open source and free, but also training off of all of your data. Right. So what we said is, okay, if that's what it's going to take, we'll take all of these different models, we'll put them into our platform and charge you a single low cost seat, and you get to pick and choose. Now, each one of these companies has a legal terms and conditions agreement with us today that says that they will not train off of any data loaded into our platform for their models. On the off chance that sometimes they are not honest and that they do something otherwise, we have hidden all of their large language models behind a private Azure instance in order to ensure security. Now, we've got our SOC 2 compliance, our ISO, our GDPR, and we're working on our HIPAA compliance as well. So you can rest assured that no matter what gets in there, first of all, we are not saving your data. So once it's deleted in the platform, it's gone. Obviously, if you still have that data residing somewhere else, you still have access to it, but we're not backing any of that up. So just so you're aware. Um, Getting into it, you did mention that there are professional services. So I'm going to show you how low code, no code, easy
Mhm.
it is to build an agent. But if you have something a bit more complex, a workflow you want built, you don't have the technical staff or time really. We do have an entire extension arm that would help you build that should you need. So just rest assured that it is there. All right,
Yeah.
meat and potatoes of this. So we're gonna go into it. When you log in, you're gonna hit a landing screen, very similar to most chatbots. You can add, most everything can be accomplished through here. You can pick and choose your model as you see fit, and then ask any kind of questions you might have in that regard, right? And that's just your basic. I got a question. Help me out. Let's figure out what you want. If it's got an answer for you. But what I want to do is we're just going to go into a couple of test environments here that I've got pre-built. So when you build an agent or a bot, you're going to basically land on this. And it's going to be really your description screen. And it's going to say, all right, the more descriptive and finite that you are in what it's supposed to be doing for you, the better the instructions will become. And these are kind of like your guardrails. This is where you tell it what it can and cannot do, what its entire job and roles and responsibility are. This is very easy for you to kind of adjust and tweak as you go along and play around with whatever agent you build. Now, going back to the governance aspect of this, who can edit this agent? Who do you want others to have access to editing it, or do you want them to be able to just view it and interact with it? So you can create multiple different organizations within your company, meaning here's the HR staff. Essentially, we call them organizations, but they could be departments, right?
Mhm.
Sales team, executives, things like that.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think this is huge, right? Because a lot of people that use like maybe just an open AI model, right? They're using it like a search functionality and they're not really building that agentic AI, that bot type of capability. Not everybody's as good at building out the prompts correctly to get, it's a tool. So if you're not using the tool correctly, you're not going to get, the best bang for your buck. And with this allows you as business owners, right, to build those specific subsets, right? This is the marketing bot. This is how they use it. This is finance. This is HR, right? So it stays within those guardrails. And I think, it's important to call back, right, the security functionality of it. So they're not trading off your data. They're not sharing your data, all that type of stuff, which is huge, huge, huge because, there was a slide there that was breezed over that there was some pretty large data breaches that had happened with some large organizations, right? Sorry to kind of go off the
Oh no,
tangent
you're good.
there,
You're
but
good.
it's a good callback to that because these are things that we're seeing in the news, right? And these are things that people every time a new iteration of technology comes out, right, and becomes more largely known and scaled, people have their own concerns, and it's based off of fear of the unknown, right? And so this helps that unknown become known, right, and safe.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not just the fear of unknown, but it's also the level of control that you have, right? And feeling like you have control, but also not limiting your employees, right? Because you want to empower them to work smarter, not harder. And if it makes their job easier, great, then they can put their efforts towards something that, really requires their skill set, as
Mhm.
opposed to kind of swivel chairs or the basics of, hey, it took me 10, 15 minutes to write an email versus I put it into a bot and it helped me write exactly what I needed to get out
Yep.
in a fraction of the time, right? So one thing that I didn't touch on, but I'm about to here is when you're building this, the reason why you don't want to marry yourself to any one of these is because they're constantly leapfrogging each other. ChatGPT 5.0 just came out, what, 3, maybe 4 weeks ago,
Mhm.
and depending on when you're watching this. But next you're going to see Gemini, and Claude is about to have another release. So, when do you decide, all right, this is the best one for my company, or is it just the best one for what I'm trying to do in the moment, but is it going to help me down the road? And this is already an outdated slide already because of how far along everything has come. You just can't start to see yourself in one LLM as they start to progress so drastically. So,
Yep.
and I'm going to show you exactly how you're able to not be tied down to one in just a second here, actually in the next tab. So, going through this, your instructions, right? The guardrails. If you have something that is frequently asked questions, right, you can start to give it answers as to how you want it to respond almost every time. Say it's how do I reset my password on my computer? Well, okay, here's the documentation. You can reference this, or you can tell it exactly what you want it to say. Have you looked at, XYZ, or an internal web page that'll feed that, or you can build it in. And I'll showcase that in just a moment. So, reason why you're not tied down to any one model is because you get to choose it. So today I'm on ChatGPT 5, but let's just say Gemini just releases their new version. All I have to do is save it. And now I'm up to date on the latest version that has been released. When ChatGPT 5, just as an example, came out, we were about 1 day behind loading it into this platform. So you get it almost in real time to get access to the latest models.
And
Um,
the best part, what I'll just say real quick, because when we were talking about this previously, right, you're not having to rebuild everything you've built before. You just change the model, right? You're not having to retrain a different LLM over again. It already knows exactly the thing that you've built out, but now you get to leverage the newest, latest, and greatest, right? Or things change, or
Absolutely.
you want it to the input to be different than the output, et cetera.
Yep. And it gives you that flexibility. So you get to play around with it. And essentially what you'll end up doing is you'll ask 10 of the same questions, right? So you'll have a list of 10 questions. And then you can hot swap asking this agent those exact same 10 questions with different models to see which output you like better, and then slightly refining the answers as you go about it.
Mhm.
Right? Now, temperature is kind of a unique little area here. This is really, the randomness of the output as it states right here. If I'm in marketing, I probably want it to get a little random in the sense of being able to get creative, right? As opposed to if I need a pocket engineer that is very technical in its responses, I'm going to turn this down so that way it gets very precise. Now, in order for it to not hallucinate, we actually have ability to enable citations. So when I load information in here, whether it be a PDF or a Word document or just linked up to my Google Drive for all those documents, When I ask a question, it will literally citate and give a link to the actual document it is referencing and tell you that it is on paragraph 3 or page 2, paragraph 3, line 47, right? And then link that document to you so that way you can cross-reference should you need, or even, make sure that it's not an out-of-date document. If it's 10 years old, it might not be relevant or useful. So you still have access to it, but you can also make sure that, the information you're being provided is accurate and it's actually pertinent to what your needs are, right?
Which is
Um,
huge because when,
yeah.
and I say the early days of AI, which is funny because it was like a year and a half ago, things are moving so quickly. When I was building AI bots, right, and testing them out through using a messenger on my website and, backdooring that, connecting it to go high level of CRM and things like that, it was spitting out wild things that my company didn't do, right? It was just looking for an answer to give, not the answer to give, right? And so that temperature that, Andrew was talking about, right, is a big part of that, right? Specifying what the model looks like, and then also being able to actually put the documentation in there so it's not pulling from wherever. And when it does pull from somewhere, it'll show you where it actually is pulling it from. Brings credibility to the answers. If you're building a bot for your website, that's huge, right? Or if it's a customer support module or even agent support module, right? You have an internal staff. It's going to be good to be able to reference that properly.
Yeah, and honestly, if you ask a bot these days, a question it doesn't know the answer to, it's not going to say, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It'll try and come up with an answer, and that's where you get hallucinations that you hear in the industry, where it's going to try and make up something in order to spit out a result it thinks might be right. And sounds great, but if it's something that's technical, you need it to be accurate or precise, right? So because you don't want to be feeding your customers or yourself misinformation.
Yep.
So enabling citations is great, especially when you have data sources loaded. This one in particular I just built, I haven't loaded anything in here, but I'll get into one that showcases, kind of workflows and how to deploy it, things like that. Just a second. So kind of moving forward, you can reference data that's been loaded to another agent already, so that way you're not eating up the storage space. Now, there are limitations in each license in order to kind of throttle how much information you can load. Because remember, this is all loaded up in Azure instance temporarily. Again, it's only in your private instance when you get there, but you do have a 20 gig limitation, and that is spread across each license. Meaning, um, so if you have 10 licenses, then you have 200 gigs worth of data pooled together that the entire organization can now upload into its RAG, which is the retrieval augmentation uh, generation. So that being said, one other point to note out since I am on the pricing aspect here is that the business license comes with 20 million tokens per license a month that is also pooled together. So again, if you have 10 licenses, you have 200 million tokens per month that is pooled across the entire organization. I don't want to get too heavy into what a token is, but it's about 3.75 characters per, token. So just to put that into perspective, it still is very hard to reach, especially from your regular user. Now, if you can put throttles in here, as you may have noticed under the model, max output tokens, max input tokens. This is just basically, throttling. All right, I don't need a 5-page essay in my response. I never want you to go there that far. So I'm gonna throttle this down, right? You get the ability to kind of put those throttles in there, and it goes a bit deeper the further along you go in regards to how you're retrieving the information, right? So now we're in the tools. I've turned on a specialty called enhanced knowledge. Now, for those of you who have worked in the AI space, this is very unique from what this platform brings to the table because I believe we're the only ones that are out there right now that gives this capability. But you can choose a secondary LLM to retrieve your information. So if you remember correctly, we are on Gemini for our output, but now my retrieval knowledge is going to be Claude because it may read PDFs better or it might read Excel sheets better, right? It gives you the ability to start to play around with different models doing different things because each one does something better than the other, but you might like outputs better from one model over another, right? I get asked a lot of times which model is best for what, right? And as much as I would love to answer that question, it changes so drastically
Yeah.
going back to that leapfrogging that I can't just create a spreadsheet and say this does one better than another. So I'm going to actually point you to a third-party source that has nothing to do with AppDirect, but it's something that I use in my own, research. It's called lmarena.ai, and what this does is this is kind of an open source. People start to vote on where each model does something better depending on, the task at hand, right? So you can see from a text, from a web dev, text to image, vision. There's a couple of other different, I'm not going to go too deep into this, but it's a great way to say, okay, who are people using for, text or generating feedback, right?
Yep.
Or what are you using for web development? And it'll start to give you kind of more results and insight as to who you might want to try and choose. Just because it's ever-changing environment, this is probably your best bet that I found so far. So just figured I'd share with the greater good here.
It's a fantastic tool. And yeah, since you can change your models on the fly, it's good. You always want to be kind of ahead of the curve as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as an IT leader, whatever your segment of the market is, right? You don't want to let things sit too long. So go into here maybe weekly, and double checking if your model's producing the right outputs that you want is huge. Thanks for
Yeah,
that.
and there's
Yeah.
actually no way to go. There's a battle side. There's a side to compare two models of your choice, right? There's a number of ways to go about it. It's just a nice tool that's free. Jump in there, figure out which model you want to use while you build your agent, right? Or trial and error, and just figure out what's going to work best for you. Now, again, there's a lot of different models that you have access to, so trial and error for each and every one of these may take some time, but your choice. You have the option. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So moving forward, you have knowledge retrieval. You can even do spreadsheet analysis. Some models do better at reading spreadsheets. It does gray out some of those that don't do spreadsheet reviews. So just so you know, you have that. You typically want to choose one that has reasoning. Long and short of it is we understand that finance uses AI as much as possible. We made sure to give it its own kind of special love in the sense of giving spreadsheet analysis its own corner and LLM chosen model, right? At the end of the day, you can actually choose up to, what is it, four different large language models in a single agent. One for your output, right, under the model here, one for your RAG, one for your image generation, and one for your spreadsheet. So in a single agent, you could literally have four different LLMs running simultaneously.
Okay.
Should do one. One thing that's very unique as well is that you can also have an MCP server. Now, some of these are pre-built. Microsoft is coming, I think, at the end of this month here, or within a month here. But you can sync it up with Gmail and Google Calendar. Or if you have your own custom-built MCP server, you can link it here as well. For those who don't know what an MCP server is or new to it, this is really that kind of server that allows your agents to have read-write access to different applications that you might be running. So if I wanted to say API this into Salesforce, I would need to link my MCP to say, all right, this agent now has access to Salesforce to create a lead for me, right? Otherwise, it would just have API access to read information, but not write. So it wouldn't be able to create a new lead for you. Um, there's ways to build that. Happy to help. There's a whole documentation center as to what you need as far as an MCP goes, but we're not going to go that deep on this initial video just because
Hmm.
I think getting a general idea of what it can and cannot do is helpful. API, most key thing here because no workflow is complete without being able to tie into some kind of application or system. So you get to have your API keys. We make ours. I guess you could have um, five LLMs running simultaneously should you want in a single agent because the API can run on its own as well. Forgot about that. But yeah, so that being said, APIs are key. We do allow the API to be open, our API key. So it's
Mhm.
right here. If you need it, you don't have to go asking for it. You can easily do that. And then here's a guide as to how to install it, right? But going back here, just to finish off this test agent, Python coding obviously can help out with codes. So there's a lot of information it can do. A lot of a lot of tools it has access to in order for you to start building your workflows, right? I'm going to touch on this briefly just because it's more of a fun to have than a need to have for most organizations. This is profile. This is really kind of giving character to your actual agent itself. You can upload example conversations if you have frequently asked questions that you're training your individuals on, or maybe it's frequently asked questions for your IT staff to automate IT tickets. But you can make it automate or animated. You can even give it a voice. You can do a couple other things. This is not meant to be what's called an IVA, which is a interactive virtual assistant. For those in the voice space, this is usually placed in front of your IVR, your interactive virtual recording. Press one for marketing, press two for sales, press three for finance, right? That's a recording that kind of gives you that call tree. An IVA is, hey, how can I help you today from a robot, an AI agent. Sounds like a real person. You tell it, I need you to direct me to Dante White. Okay, great. And it directs you without having to go through that phone tree. This is not meant for that. There are platforms that are out there that are within the portfolio that do this a lot better, that integrate with your existing PBX or phone system that can be bolted on without porting numbers. That's a whole nother conversation. But if you wanted to play around with it, you have the ability to.
Yeah. And any of the viewers that's interested in that, we'd be happy to chat about that. Being a App Direct partner and having access to all those tools, then we'd be, you know, elated to point you in the right direction for that journey.
Okay, so last but not least, or at least from an agent creation, I'm going to get into inputs and flows next in a different agent that has been built here, but I'm going to go to deploy really quick. So deploy is how you deploy it on your website, right? So say you wanted a chatbot on your website, usually pops up down at the bottom of the screen here. How can I help? How may I be of assistance today? You can customize all of it from the lettering to the coloring to the background, the button that you see at the bottom. And then it's as simple as copying and pasting into your web dev once you've created what you wanted. So it's easily launched. Keep in mind, any one of these agents that you build in here can be deployed to a Microsoft Teams channel or a Slack channel. So you don't need to buy a license for every individual in your organization if they don't want one, but still want to automate IT tickets or HR, for instance, whatever it may be. You can launch that AI agent into your Slack channel, for instance, and the entire organization has access to it. Keep in mind that does eat up your tokens, no matter the number of times that they interact with it. But when you're at 20 million tokens to start, and then it's pooled across the number of licenses you have, um, it's hard to reach. Let's put it that way. Okay, so we're going to go to explore agents. There is an open marketplace. This is the public marketplace. You can have, these are ones that have been pre-built that you get access to. You can actually toggle this on and off within an administrator setting, and I'll show you how to do that in a second here. But just to round out how to build a workflow, oops, AT&T Quick Quote. So we're going to go into AT&T Quick Quote because this was already pre-built. And this is actually working. And what this does is this is a quick quote, a way to get a quote from, say, AT&T. What would normally take you about 72 hours to turn around, depending on your relationship with your AT&T rep. This can get it done in a matter of minutes. And what happens is it's got predefined inputs that say, all right, no matter what, in order for me to engage, I need an address. So I would have to punch in an address, and it would ask me for it. Then it says, okay, based off of your address, what kind of products do you want? And show me the products that are available for my address. And you can kind of walk yourself through this by seeing what's on the screen here, but the workflow itself essentially says, okay, we are using our tools. This is more tool heavy than data heavy. We API our way back into AT&T's backend, right? An AT&T service qualifier, and then their quote generator. So you could literally go from putting in my address to requesting a contract or to identifying the services available, all the SKUs available within that area, and then choosing and then asking it to generate a quote for me. Now, that workflow looks like this. So we'll start from the top up here, and it has to collect our address, right? And these workflows, now I'm not going to play around with this because this one does actually work and it is in use. Just for a quick quote. Now keep in mind it doesn't count for any kind of promos or features or your specific account that you might have additional discounts on because of how large you are potentially. Um, but you can see what it's doing from a step by step. Now, again, there is a whole documentation center, helps you build workflows, helps you identify what workflows mean, what different inputs are. Some of the inputs, by the way, you can actually create options. So it's here is check the box, or here's a drop down option for it. So just so you know, you can get creative in how you want it to respond based off of the information that you are asking from the end user to input. That helps it become more precise and more direct. So that way there are no chances of hallucination. You know exactly it's going to work the same time every time in that workflow. One thing I do want to point out though is that if you're getting started in AI and you're building workflows and you've got a great idea, don't try and build one agent to do it all.
Yeah.
And I think it's very key to start small, let it do one task and be very good at that task, build another one, let it do one task and be very good at that. And then you start to build an AI orchestrator. And that orchestrator will then say, okay, based off of the ask, I'm going to point it to this agent to run the process, or this one, depending on what the ask is, and it'll intelligently know which one it needs to go to based off of what the ask is. That way you can refine and tweak each individual one as needed, and you're not getting caught up trying to solve the world's problems in one agent. Because you're gonna run into issues, you're gonna get frustrated. It's just a lot harder to do unless you are very good at this and you've been doing it for a while. So that being said, that's a quick quote. Do you have any questions for me on this? Because I'm going to get into some of the governance aspects of it.
No, not specifically, just to, call back, like Andrew said, definitely want to build one, move on, build one, move on. Don't try to have it do all things all at once and play with the tool. And then, obviously another callback, if you get stuck into a certain situation where you can't build what you want, use the professional services, right? I know a lot of us like to take on the things ourselves, and it's important to know how they work. But what I always say in life is there's a price and there's a cost, right? The price is what you're going to pay. The cost is what you're going to, incur if you don't do it right the first time, right? Or the time lost, the money lost, things like that. So definitely reflect back on that too, because we always want to build right first, measure twice, cut once.
Yeah, and just on that topic, so at AfterAct, we want to empower you to use the tool. If it's a simple question, that's not going to come at a cost. If you get stuck somewhere and say, "Hey, why am I getting this error code?" Feel free to reach out. We'll answer that question. It's not an issue. If you're rolling this out to an organization or you want to implement this into your organization, Depending on the number of licenses, when you hit about 100, that's when you get assigned a full, customer success manager who will help, track, and you get your dedicated pod of engineers to help you build things. We'll actually come in and sit down with your teams to help you build workflows, things like that. Even at the 30 marker, we start to say, all right, let's train up your super users. Almost every organization has a super user in AI that's
Yep.
just been playing around with it forever, similar to yourself, Dante, that says, hey, like, I'm comfortable. I know what I'm doing. I just need, to know how to do it in your platform, right? That's not an issue. We'll come in, we'll sit down with you guys, we'll actually work with you in building some of those workflows that kind of alleviate the workload from the employees instead of swivel chairs or even tying together disparate systems so that way you the one answer you're looking for may be found in three different applications, but if you asked one question in the agent it could pull the information from all three, cross-reference it, and then give you that data or feedback.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, documentation center, like I've mentioned twice here now, but it is here, redirects you over into an entire, quick way of, how do I use APIs? What do I do? You feel free to play around with it. Okay, analytics. So in the analytics, this is just my agents, but if we go to the entire organization, AppDirect being a 1,200 employee company, there is a good chance that this is going to get pretty robust. So this is very high level, and this is just kind of telling you, all right, based off a year, quarter, month, whatever it may be, how many active users do I have? Who's using it. You can drill down into these. Am I coming up on my data storage limit? You get warnings on the tokens as well. So that way you don't run into like an AWS instance where you spun something up and forgot about it, and now you're getting an extra charge for things. Keep in mind, tokens are pennies on the dollar for millions of them. Just so you know, it is very cheap to increase that amount, but just for peace of mind, you do have throttles in there where it says, all right, you're coming up to your limit. Do you want to continue or do you want to add more? We haven't run into an instance yet. I did run into a customer that said, we have one user that uses 500,000 tokens like every three
Oh,
months. And I'm like, what is he doing, or is he even doing anything? And he's just letting his job automate. So we'll
yeah.
dig into that one. I'll keep you posted for phase two and let you know what came of that. But that individual, I'm a little bit impressed. He
I'm
might be right.
shocked. And yeah, impressed is a good way to put that. I was like, what?
That's no easy task. 20 million would be like writing a novel, at the very least, right? About a 500-page novel, roughly, depending on sizing. But um, just to put things into comparison, and I'm sure somebody in the comments will correct me on that math. But all right. Something that you won't see as of yet, but is released to us on the back end here in AppDirect. This is coming within the next month or so, depending on when you're watching this, is that you can literally build your own app. So I can say, hey, do I want to build a lead generation app, which says, okay, I want to include first name, last name, contact information, company name, right? Now I've got this new app that I'm generating, and I would do it, but we're going to eat up a lot of time, so this may be saved for another video. But it'll start to stylize it. It'll start to build it. You can refine it. You can start to say, all right, based off of this app that I've now built, I want to sync it up to Salesforce, and I want this lead generator as maybe you got people out in the field to start generating leads through the app that you built, and it syncs it right into Salesforce so that the salesperson doesn't have to double down their efforts. They could do it in real time, right?
Yeah.
Or an incoming call, for instance, say you have your chatbot on your webpage down at the bottom. You could ask it for information about the individual to create a lead in your Salesforce for anybody that's coming to ask questions on your chatbot. And now you have a follow up. But on that note, I think it's very important that one of the unique things we bring to the table today, this one, is you can see all the chat logs. So every chat log for every agent and user is loaded and stored in your admin's environment. Now, an individual won't have access to this. I am an admin for Devs.ai. I can go to either the users and I can say, okay, is Bruce asking how to backdoor his way into payroll so he can give himself a raise? um, Download and export that data into a CSV file just for reference if I need to. Or I can say, hey, my chatbot on my web page here, what are people asking? What are people writing to it? Is it responding in a way that I want them to respond, or is it giving them garbage, or is it we don't have that information, it doesn't have it, it doesn't know how to answer it. Let me go back, edit, and tweak it so the next time it gets asked, it knows exactly what to do.
That's
So you,
huge.
yeah, and you can even see I don't know what this one is, but women health and was probably not a great one to choose, but uh, once it loads, you can see even if they try to delete the actual chat, you still have access to it. So it doesn't matter what's going on, you have full access to it all. And then an export function. Cool. All right, features. This is more the governance side of the house. You can turn on and off that public catalog that I showed you early on in Explore Agents. You can have only the organization approved ones that are shared within the organization that you want the employees to have access to, whether they can share. You can kind of get a good idea here if you wanted to turn on memory. That's also probably safe for another conversation at the same time because memory kind of really dictates, who you are as an individual. Like I'm a solutions engineer, right? And I want any agent I'm asking a question to be very precise and technical because that's what my role entails, and that's what people expect of me. So in my overarching Devs AI, my account, my memory is now saved as, now I haven't saved it because this is my demo account, but I can turn this on, enable it, and then it'll start to track my memory and preferences, right? So now it starts to capture who I am and it'll start to answer in those capacities regardless of the agent I'm talking to.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because then, obviously large organizations having that memory turned on, it'll custom tailor it to everybody's specific personality, job description, etc. And I really like the ability that you can create these bots, right? And maybe plug it into Teams, as you mentioned, right? And so how many times does it happen where you've got let's just say like a sales team, hey, does anybody have this document uh, pertaining to X solution, right? And it gets asked over and over and over again. You can have that automated, right? And so they're not having to go into their SharePoint and find the document themselves or really eat up time. It becomes a really good resource tool.
Yeah, it definitely is. It has a lot to offer. I think just, moving on from a couple of different things is that I wanted to show groups. So you can
Yeah.
assign groups to individuals. So like I've got organizations, right? These are just sample ones. Right? Here's an HR team. Here's advisors like yourself, Dante, right? That I said, all right, I created a lead generation bot that I synced up with LinkedIn, and now I can ask it, find companies that are 2 to 300 employees in the Dallas, Texas area, and in my instructions, I said I target IT individuals and I target, I need to know their contact information if available and their name and company, right? And it'll generate all that information when I ask. And I can spit that out and I can push that over to sales teams. I'm not on the sales side, so I don't hunt, but you can say, okay, my HR group is now shared with the entire organization. We basically automated in HR Generalist. We uploaded our employee handbook. We uploaded the states that the employees are in, their employee guidelines, and now we can ask a question. And it also syncs up to my workday where I can ask it how many PTO hours do I have left, right? Um, and then, like you said, or like you can see, like here's HR private. This is just the internal HR individuals that can ask agents certain specific questions for unique scenarios that might come up. I have no idea
Wow.
what
Yeah.
Catalog Heroes is, but one person is interested. So you can assign these teams, you can assign the individuals, you can add new groups, you can create specific organizations. So like I'm in the abstract organization. If I switched over to advisor bots, when I build my agent, right? So we went to it doesn't matter here. This isn't actually public, but when I get in here, I could say anybody with a link or just my organization. So anybody in the finance team now has or marketing team now has access to this, or the marketing team created it and I can share it with everybody.
Yeah.
Uh, or I can put it in that catalog, which is that kind of landing page as well. Okay, so the MCP server is pretty straightforward. You can enable, turn them on and off from an admin perspective. So that way, if somebody tried to get into your MCP server and then have right access to your Salesforce, maybe you don't want them to, or you want to kind of filter and scrub who can and cannot do that. You have that ability. Um, just going back to that MCP. You see Gmail is enabled. I can build an agent that reads all my Gmail and can respond. So I can ask it, you know, surmise the last 10 emails that Dante has written me. What does he actually want from me? Right. And it'll look into it, it'll read it, give me a synopsis. And I say, okay, great. You respond to Dante and tell him I'll be on his YouTube channel.
Very
So
cool.
yeah, so you can get in, that's where the read write access comes into. Again, you can turn on and off features. Oh, and you can turn on and off certain models. So the bigger the organization, obviously there's a lot of different models you have to choose from. It may be overwhelming. Maybe there's some distrust in X for whatever reason, or DeepSeek. You can turn those on and off to what the entire organization has access to. So if you want Grok 4 turned on, you can only have one, or you can have all the variations of it as well. Um, this way, you get more control as to what the options are, and you can enable it as a default if you want. Obviously, only one can be a default, but again, it's a lot more governance. I typically recommend the larger the organization, you just open up three different models for them. That way it keeps it simple. People aren't, spinning wheels and being like, well, what's the difference between nano and mini? You just get it's just easier for individuals and you can open it
Sure.
up. Uh, like I mentioned, we were about a day behind in loading ChatGPT 5. One of the cool things I do want to make mention of is, although I said maybe you don't trust X, we did have a customer who said, "Hey, I don't want to sign up for your program or your platform unless you have X or Grok on the platform." Well, within 3 days, and don't quote me on this that we can do this with everyone, but within 3 days we were able to get Grok loaded in there, and the customer was off and running.
Very
So it may
cool.
not be the same for all, but if you make the ask and there's a good reasoning behind it and what you're trying to accomplish, there's a good chance we'll load that large language model in there.
Yeah, if you're a single user mom and pop ice cream shop, you probably don't have the pool to do that, right? But
Yep,
a Deloitte of the world, something like that, right? Will allow you
exactly.
to do that. And then it just opens up for other people. So, because to your point, right, these AI models, these LLMs are leapfrogging each other all the time. There's always a new thing that's coming in here. And so the platform itself that you guys have built here, I mean, the power and scalability is huge. I mean, I even learned some stuff here today, right? The ability to read and write in Gmail. If you mentioned in a scenario where you could train it to do prospecting for you on LinkedIn, right? Like
Yep.
game changer. I didn't show it on camera, but internally my head exploded. What a
Yeah.
what a cool thing to be able to use.
It is definitely a very powerful tool. Now, keep in mind, it may not be the right fit for everything. So, there are other options in the portfolio that we can bring to the table. This one is really, again, going back to that shadow AI, where employees are using it. So empower them, but give yourself that capability of visibility and control over the data that's going in here. Now, what I'm in right now is data. Obviously, it looks like it failed up in this side of the house, but we are the only platform that I'm aware of that gives you access and visibility to all of the documents loaded into any agent that has been built in your organization. Meaning, if somebody decided to load personal information into one of their agents, the admin can actually go in and delete that information and prevent it from being loaded. So that way they can remove it from ever getting out there, and they don't need that end user, the user who built it to take it down. The
That's
admin can take
awesome.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty powerful thing, right? And like, organizations are always changing different sets of documentation. So like to be able to have the newest, latest, and greatest in there is great. So you're pulling from the right intel, right? Or this doesn't meet company standards, so won't be able to spit something out. So that's huge. I've gotten in trouble for that, personally using different LLMs and building stuff out. And it's like, where did you get this info? And I got it from this document. And they're like, yeah, that's not relevant anymore, type of deal.
Yeah. Uh,
Oops.
Yeah, no worries. So last but not least, and I'll probably end it here, is you can obviously share this, you can make this public, you can show people what you built to interact with it. The way that we stop individuals from buying one business license and then everybody trying to access the free is that you have to be on the same license model as the individual or the model was built on in order to access it. Just an FYI. But again, if you only wanted to have three IT members have access to the Devs platform, automate your IT tickets, then you can deploy it on Teams or Slack, and you would still only need those three licenses.
Super powerful. Okay. Very cool.
Yep. And I can actually probably showcase that. Let's see if I get in trouble here. I don't know if you want to see it, but we called ours Alfred.
Don't
I'll just
tell
show.
anybody YouTube channel. This is a sneak
Yeah.
peek right now.
So mine's called Alfred. IT ticket. I had to get a new Visio license in order to draw up a new network diagram because I do more than just AI. And it said, great. I opened up the ticket. It said, open a ticket for Visio license, please. Right? It opened up the ticket, and then Victor, our internal guy, took over writing back through Alfred for me and said, great. No problem. Looks like you're all set for this. You can, if you need anything else, let me know. And I closed the issue. So I opened and closed the ticket. And then up here, as you can see, last time I changed my password, it kept reminding me. I waited to the last minute like everybody else does. And then I hit change my
Great.
password and I was able to process that without ever needing to talk to anybody else. And it told me exactly how to do it.
Yeah,
So
that's cool.
yeah, and then there's an HR one. I never use it, but no, not that one. This one. Not that one. This one. I had to get a new. Oh, it already deleted it. So I had to get a new insurance card, and it opened up a ticket, and they mailed me a new insurance card with HR. So
Oh my gosh, it's so amazing. Just that quick response that you can get from that and automate internally in an organization. Because the cool thing about this too, right, is like it becomes a tool that's outward facing and also inward facing, right? So like you showed us examples where if your organization, you could build the bots for your website, customers can go to it for new sales inquiries, for support inquiries, all that stuff. But you can also leverage the tool internally very powerfully and customize what that's going to look like and how it's going to work and the APIs built into it, or even build an application, right? Build an application that you want to either pulse out to your customers or your internal employees and tie it to tools that you're already using. You're not having to necessarily reinvent the wheel, but just think about the scalability. I mean, so many companies are looking to save money nowadays, right? Like, obviously the economy is, having some very, very strong fluctuations that are happening right now. So how do we do less with more, or how do we do more with less, I should say, right? And
yeah,
this is a huge tool to be able to do that for small entrepreneurs to large scale companies. It doesn't matter where you fit on that spectrum. This is a great tool for you. So all this to say, right? I invite everybody here that's viewing this video at any time. Check the description. You're going to see a link to be able to get access to Devs.Ai. There's the free sample. There's the $15 a month. There's $30 a month, right? So still very, very cost effective based off of what you're going to need, right? Also happy for larger organizations to set up demos for this, right? You have some custom things that you want to ask, right? That you maybe saw some instances in this video that you're like, wow, that's cool. I'd like to dig in deeper there, or this triggered something for me. Happy to set up those demos for you, right? So you can really get to the meat and potatoes of what it's going to look like for you as an organization to leverage this tool.
Yeah, it's a low barrier to entry. It is, which is the key. We want you to play around with it. We want you to get comfortable. The free model definitely does not give you access to everything. You're limited on the number of large language models you have access to. You can't build the workflows. But there is a month-to-month option should you want just to get comfortable with it, see if you like it, play around, and then eventually deploy.
Yeah,
Right. So there's a yearly and then an annual. And I think actually this slide, if we can still see the whole thing,
you're sharing different part
wrong,
of your
wrong screen
screen.
share. Okay. We'll do a whole thing here. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Uh, there we go. Let's pull that over. Now we'll share this. So yeah, the free model, you're limited on the amount of storage you have, which is going to be probably your biggest limiter, and then the number of large language models. Once you start to work your way up, obviously there's different abilities that you gain access to. But really starting off in the business license is usually the best way to get a full picture of what's going on. And if you remember correctly, at the cost structure, if you were to
Yeah.
have one license for each, just from an individual level, it can get quite costly.
Yeah, even if you're just using OpenAI individual, right? Like that's like $20 a month or something like that, right? So,
And keep in
yeah.
mind, it's still learning off your information. Only the
Oh, yeah.
enterprise of ChatGPT is the only model or the only license that won't train off of your information.
Right, exactly. But I'm just, I'm speaking from cost perspective, right? So even at the $15 tier, the $30 tier, right, you're either coming in cheaper than the individual license, you're absolutely coming in cheaper than any of those singular licenses, right? But let's just say you're even doing Gemini today, right? For $30 a month, you could get access to everything else as well. So for me, it's an absolute no-brainer, no matter what, because
Yes.
you're going to pay for one of them, right? So might as well get all of them.
Yeah, exactly. And keep in mind, even under our free model, it is still protected and not training off your data.
That's huge.
So no matter what, as long as you're within the devs platform, your information is not being trained on.
Super
So
massive. Well,
I'm just
very
going to leave
cool.
on this because there are a bunch of use cases. There's a lot more that it can do, but just to give you a concept of if you're struggling to find out what you want to do with AI, quick slide here.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that for sure. So, um, we've learned a lot here today, and I want to definitely thank you for your time for helping me and my customers out, helping my YouTube subscribers learn about some new information and everybody I touch. So, uh, I would be remiss if I didn't thank you for your time. And same thing to the viewers, right? Like you as a person could have spent 45 minutes doing literally anything, but you spent 45 minutes today learning to make yourself stronger as a business, as an entrepreneur, as somebody who's leveraging technology on a day-to-day basis. So, thank you for your time as well, tuning in. Really appreciate it. And as I've said throughout this presentation, uh, you know, hit the description. There's going to be a link. Support Oppuous, support our mission vision as we help other entrepreneurs, scale their sustainable dreams, right? And if you want to see a demo of the platform, you're a larger organization and you saw something here today that you really want to dive into, reach out to me. Leave my contact information. I will set up a demo for you to really kind of see what this looks like, right? Outside of that, visit our website. Also will be in the description as well to learn more about Oppuous and talk to one of our technology advisors. We've got a nationwide engineers, technology advisors that can help you with anything and everything from phone systems, internet circuits, cybersecurity, you name it, it is in our portfolio, and we work with entrepreneurs day to day to build the right things, work with businesses day to day to sustain and build big things. So everybody have a great day. I thank you so much for your time. Be well.